Have you ever felt like you were being pushed out of your own home? Have you ever been betrayed by someone you loved and trusted? Well, that's exactly what happened to me, and it's a story that still haunts me. I thought I knew what it meant to be a mother-in-law, and I believed that my love and care would create a strong bond with my daughter-in-law. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened. I never thought I would be in this position. I've always been a mother who's dedicated to her family, and when my son married, I welcomed his wife into my home with open arms. Little did I know, that simple act would be the beginning of a rift so deep, I would never have imagined it. I know what you're thinking. Mother-in-law and daughter-in-law struggles are nothing new. But the truth is, this was more than just a simple misunderstanding. It was a clash of personalities, a clash of worlds. So, why did I get kicked out of my own home by my daughter-in-law? Why did it escalate to a point where I had no choice but to leave? Well, let me tell you this story. Please. Join me as I walk you through the painful journey of being pushed away by someone I considered family. I hope you will empathize with me as I recount everything that happened. When my daughter-in-law first came into our home, I was excited. I saw this as a new chapter for our family, where I could welcome her, help her, and show her what it means to be a part of this family. I never had any bad intentions. I thought that the more I gave, the closer we would become, but I was wrong. At first, the little things seemed harmless. I offered to help her with household chores, especially in the kitchen, thinking it would be a good way to bond. She always declined, saying, "Mom, don't worry, I can do it myself." I didn't think much of it at first. I figured she was just being polite, perhaps a little shy. Maybe she didn't want to feel like a burden. But as time passed, her constant refusal to accept my help started to sting. It wasn't just about the chores anymore. It became a symbol of the growing distance between us. Every time I tried to do something nice, it felt like she pushed me away, without even realizing how much it hurt. There were times when I'd make dinner and she'd insist that she's fine. She doesn't need anything from me. I tried to show that I cared by sharing family recipes, offering advice, but all I got in return were cold, polite responses. There was never any warmth, no genuine connection. It seemed like she wanted to maintain some distance, some boundary that I couldn't cross. And the more I tried, the more I felt like I was being rejected. I never fully understood it. I would try to give advice, to share my experiences, but she would either me or brush me off. Every time I made an attempt, I felt like she was shutting me out, making me feel more like a stranger than a mother-in-law. I remember one evening, I asked her how her day had gone, and she just looked at me, said fine, and turned back to whatever she was doing. No conversation, no engagement. I know I wasn't perfect, and I wasn't expecting her to be the ideal daughter-in-law either, but I was only trying to build a relationship. I wanted her to know that I was there for her, that I was ready to support her no matter what. But she never seemed to need me. Or at least that's how it felt. The more I thought about it, the more I started to question myself. Was I being too much? Too involved? I didn't know if I was being too overbearing, or if I was just expecting too much. Maybe I was the one at fault for not giving her the space she needed. Maybe she didn't want to be mothered. Maybe she just wanted to do things on her own. But there were so many things that went unsaid between us, and those things were starting to build up inside me. And then, it hit me. The more I tried to make her feel at home, the more I pushed her away, even though I had no intention of doing so. It felt like a trap I had fallen into, without even realizing it. I wasn't listening to her needs, to her space, and she wasn't communicating her feelings to me. Our relationship, which I hoped would flourish, was slowly falling apart, piece by piece, and I couldn't figure out why. I just kept trying to do everything for her, and nothing seemed to make a difference. This was the beginning of the tension. It wasn't a single moment, but rather a buildup of many small moments that started to shape the growing divide between us. I didn't know how to reach her, how to get past this wall she was building around herself. As the days passed, the tension continued to build between us. I could feel it in the air, like a thick fog I couldn't shake off. No matter how much I tried to break through that barrier, nothing worked. Each attempt to connect only seemed to push us further apart. It wasn't just the small things anymore. It was the silent distance that lingered in every corner of our home. The unspoken words. The glances that spoke louder than anything else. I remember one evening when I tried again. I had prepared a family dinner. Something simple, but in my mind, it was a way to bring everyone together. I believed that sharing a meal would be a chance to connect, to sit down, and maybe talk about how things were going. But as I walked into the kitchen to finish the last touches on the food, I saw her standing there, watching me. And then, with a cold tone, she said, "What are you doing, Mom? Don't you understand? I can do everything myself." Those words, those simple words, hit me harder than anything else. I froze. It was like a slap in the face. I didn't know how to react. My heart sank, and in that moment, everything came crashing down. I had tried so hard to make her feel at home, to be a part of this family, and yet here she was, rejecting me once again. I had always believed that a mother-in-law's role was to care for, to guide, to be there when needed. But now, I realized how wrong I was. She didn't need me. Or at least, she didn't want me. It wasn't just about the dinner. It wasn't about helping in the kitchen. It was about the emotional barrier between us, the wall she had built up around herself, and I felt like I was on the outside, looking in. At that moment, all I wanted was for her to understand that I wasn't trying to control her, that I just wanted to help, but my actions, my constant need to be involved, had driven her away. I didn't know it at the time, but I had been suffocating her with my love, not giving her the space she needed to breathe. I thought I was doing the right thing, that by being helpful I was showing her I cared, but instead, I had unknowingly made her feel like she couldn't stand on her own, and that was the breaking point. I walked out of the kitchen, my heart heavy with confusion and pain. I went outside, sitting in the garden, trying to collect my thoughts, trying to figure out what had gone wrong. How could I have misread everything so badly? How could I have been so blind to her feelings? As I sat there, I realized something. The anger and hurt I was feeling were real, but they weren't just from her actions. They were from my own inability to see things from her perspective. I had been so focused on what I wanted, what I thought was best for her, that I had completely ignored her need for independence, her need for space. She was a grown woman, with her own life, her own ways of doing things. I had forgotten that. I had failed to acknowledge that she wasn't just my son's wife, she was a person with her own thoughts and feelings. But at that moment, I didn't know how to fix it. The damage had been done, and I couldn't undo the hurt I had caused by pushing too hard, by trying to be more involved than she wanted me to be. After that day, everything changed. I couldn't stay in the house, not after what had happened. I left, unable to shake the overwhelming feelings of confusion and heartbreak. How could she treat me like that? How could someone I had welcomed into my home, someone I had tried to build a relationship with, push me away so easily? The anger and pain were overwhelming, but so was the sense of defeat. I walked out into the garden, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I sat down, my mind racing, but I couldn't find any clarity. I kept replaying that moment over and over in my head. What went wrong? I had tried so hard to be a good mother-in-law. I tried to be helpful, to offer advice, to show her that I cared. But all I had done was alienate her. As I sat there, feeling completely lost, I thought about everything. About my relationship with my son, about how I had always been there for him, about how I had tried to give him the best upbringing I could. But now, everything felt like it was slipping through my fingers. I felt like an outsider in my own family, like I had no place anymore. I couldn't stop asking myself why this had to happen. Why had I been pushed away by someone I had only wanted to help? Why couldn't she see that I was just trying to support her? The rejection stung, and for the first time in a long while, I felt truly alone. It wasn't just about the dinner or the kitchen incident anymore. It was about everything: the silent treatment, the lack of communication, the way she had distanced herself from me in every possible way. She had shut me out, and I didn't know how to get back in. I had tried to help, to love her as a mother would. I had made it clear that she didn't need me, or at least, that's how it felt. As I sat there in the quiet, I realized that maybe it wasn't entirely her fault. Maybe I had been too involved, too eager to fix things, too determined to be the perfect mother-in-law. I had given so much of myself, but perhaps I had forgotten that she wasn't me. She didn't want to be mothered the way I had mothered my son. She had her own way of doing things, her own life, and maybe I had never fully understood that. The pain I was feeling now was not just from being rejected by her. It was from realizing how little I had listened, how little I had respected her boundaries. I had been so focused on my own expectations, on my own desires for how things should be, that I had ignored the most important thinger. For the first time, I felt a deep sense of guilt. I had been so focused on my needs, my desire to be involved, that I had forgotten to stop and ask what she needed, what she wanted. I had pushed her away without meaning to, and now, she was pushing me away in return. I didn't know how to fix this. I had tried everything, but it all felt like it had been in vain. How could I repair a relationship that I had unknowingly damaged so much? How could I make her understand that my intentions had always been pure, that I only wanted what was best for her, for our family? I left that night, unsure of what to do next. My heart was heavy with the realization that things may never be the same again. But I also knew that if anything were going to change, I had to be the one to change first. After everything that had happened, I was left in a state of complete confusion. The pain of being rejected by my daughter-in-law was still raw, but it was accompanied by something deeper and unsettling feeling that I had missed something important. I realized I couldn't keep blaming her, not when I was just as much to blame. If anything were going to change, it had to start with me. I had spent so much time focusing on what I wanted and what I thought was best for her that I completely overlooked what she needed. I had always believed that being a good mother-in-law meant taking care of everything, offering advice and trying to help. But in my efforts to show love, I had suffocated her. I didn't give her the space to live her own life. I had forgotten that she was a person in her own right, with her own boundaries, own preferences. It took a lot of time and self-reflection, but I finally realized that I needed to change. I couldn't expect her to adapt to my way of doing things. I couldn't force her to accept my help if she wasn't ready or if she didn't want it. I had to learn to step back, to give her room to breathe, and to understand that my love for her needed to be expressed in a way that respected her individuality, not in a way that smothered her. So, I began making changes, not all at once, but slowly and deliberately. I stopped offering unsolicited advice, stopped trying to control every aspect of her life. I started listening, truly listening when she spoke. I stopped rushing to fix things for her and instead asked how I could support her in a way that made her feel empowered, not dependent. I understood that being there for her wasn't about taking charge, but about showing her that I respected her choices and her space. I reached out to her, but this time, I wasn't forcing anything. I simply wanted to understand her better. I asked her how she was doing, how her day was going, and listened without interrupting. There were times when she didn't respond right away, but I didn't mind. I understood that it would take time for her to trust me again. Slowly, we started to have real conversations. She opened up more about her life, her thoughts, her dreams, and even her frustrations. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but it was a start. We had been strangers for so long, but through patience and understanding, I was starting to see the woman behind the daughter-in-law. The more I understood her, the more I realized that we were both in this together. I wasn't just her mother-in-law, I was a woman who had been through similar struggles, who knew what it was like to feel overwhelmed, to feel like you weren't being seen or understood. And as I began to open up to her, I said she wasn't so different from me after all. She just needed to know that I could see her, that I could understand her, and that I wasn't going to judge her or try to change her. As time passed, I began to realize that healing a relationship is not an immediate process. It requires time, patience, and consistent effort. But the most important lesson I learned was that it wasn't just about me or Harriet, was about both of us working together to rebuild trust and understanding. I noticed small changes in her behavior. She started to engage more, sharing little details about her day, her thoughts, and her feelings. I could see the walls that had once been so high and strong, slowly beginning to come down. It wasn't an instant transformation, and there were still moments of tension, but there was something different now, a willingness to communicate, a desire to connect. I also noticed something in myself, something I hadn't expected. As I stopped trying to control everything and learned to listen more, I found myself feeling lighter, less burdened by expectations. I realized that being a good mother-in-law didn't mean forcing my way into her life or always trying to fix things. It meant allowing her the freedom to make her own choices, to live her life in a way that felt right to her. And in turn, it meant showing her that I was there for her, not to control, but to support. The moment that stands out most to me, however, is when she came to me, unexpectedly, and said, "Mom, I'm sorry if I've been distant. I've just needed some time to adjust. Thank you for giving me space." Those simple words hit me harder than any argument we'd ever had. She had recognized the effort I made, and more importantly, she acknowledged her own role in our strained relationship. It was a moment of mutual understanding, a moment that felt like the beginning of something truly beautiful. We weren't perfect, and I knew that our relationship would continue to evolve, but for the first time in a long while, I felt that we were truly on the same page. I wasn't just a mother-in-law anymore. I was someone who had learned to respect her, to see her as an individual, and to value her presence in our family. And in return, she started seeing me in a new light. We both learned that family isn't about imposing expectations or living up to ideals. It's about embracing each other's differences and growing together. Our relationship isn't perfect, and I don't expect it to be. But it's real, and that's enough. I've learned that the best way to support someone isn't by doing everything for them or trying to make them fit into my vision of what their life should look like. It's by being present, by offering support when needed, and by respecting the space they need to thrive. We've both grown in ways I never thought possible. She's learned to trust me more, and I've learned to give her the space and respect she deserves. And as for me, I've learned to embrace the idea that love doesn't always come with grand gestures. Sometimes, it's the quiet moments of understanding, the willingness to step back, and the patience to allow someone to grow into themselves. Looking back, I realized that everything I went through was a lesson in humility, patience, and love. I thought I knew what being a good mother-in-law meant, but now I understand that it's not about control, it's about connection. And that's something I will never forget. Thank you so much for watching and for being a part of this journey with me. I hope this story has resonated with you and given you something to think about. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a comment, like, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. In the next video, I'll be sharing another unexpected story that's sure to surprise you. Be sure to check out more of my videos for even more shocking twists and emotional moments. Thanks again for your support, and I can't wait to share more with you very soon. See you in the next video.